Welcome to Lead Live, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Well, it's another day, another opportunity for us to add value in our own discrete ways, and ideally in collaboration, in partnership with countless others. Here at Lead Live, we get to do that. We get to do that with wonderful guests who you get to meet. We get to do that with individuals behind the scenes who you may never see, and yet make a profound difference on behalf of all of us. Today, we have a topic we hope you find not only compelling, but sufficiently important that you spend more time in reflection, just considering the possibilities. Here's the title: Pathway to Transformative Leadership. Love. Love. Yes. Pathway to Transformative Leadership. Love. And we're fortunate to have a special guest today, someone who demonstrates just that. She's among a growing number of individuals who understand the critical nature of love. Well, some of us have known it all of our lives. I think she's one of those individuals. Others have never talked about it, and yet their lives are a direct reflection of it. I am reminded of a quote that I'll read now. It's one of several I'll read over the course of the next hours. You must love those who lead before you can be an effective leader. Well, this is someone that typically you'd not even associate with that statement. And yet, as an individual who was not only championed by our previous president, Barack Hussein Obama, tapped him to be in a leadership role within his administration. This individual, want to make certain I get this right, chose to lead as a 4-star general in the U.S. Army. Mr. Eric Ken Shimsinski. I want to honor him. He, like a lot of individuals, understand that it's more than just being in a role. You have a title where you carry out certain activities. And if you're fortunate, you have a growing or large team of individuals with whom you work. You may serve them as their immediate supervisor or their lead of a huge organization. You may serve them as a colleague, coworker. You may serve them, whoever them may be, as someone considered a subordinate, ensuring their success. Yet fundamental to his effective leadership, and without a doubt, he was and still is in his own private life effective. It's all about starting and ending with the heart. I call it a heart-mind connection. Love. There's another quote I want to reference. Leadership is not so much about technique and methods as it is about operating or opening, I call it operating, opening the heart. Leadership is about inspiration of oneself and of others. Great leadership is about human experiences and not processes. Leadership is not a formula or a program. And that's why we have countless books on leadership, so many articles written on it, dissertations reflecting studies on it, observations. I mean, we can go on, and there's so many different definitions, countless. You can't define it in only one way because it really is as complex as we are, and arguably even more so, because it comes from effective leadership. Transformative leadership comes from a different, deeper, higher source, I firmly believe. Thus, it's not a formula or a program. It is a human activity that comes from the heart, considers the hearts of others, and it is an attitude not a routine. Thank you, Lance Secreton. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to Tracey Williams. She's currently the Urban University founder and executive director. And as you see her, I'm so glad that Jet brought her to the screen right away. I want you to know that beyond the countless awards that she's received, being part of the executive program in social entrepreneurship at Stanford University's Graduate School of Business in 2018 and other things. She's worked in leadership roles in support of organizations, including the city and county of San Francisco, especially in the area of learning with income foundations for teach and program. She's worked with the Green Jobs Reentry Program in Oakland, California, with PG&E Veterans Employment and Action Program, the Bar Association of San Francisco Legal Education Action Program. I can go on. Most importantly, now she's taken all that leadership experience, all those learnings, all those challenges and opportunities. She's bringing it to bear with the Urban University leadership. What does she do there? She brings a wealth of experience as a professional in the fields of nonprofit leadership, workforce development, social entrepreneurship, involving the design and delivery of programs focused on social and economic justice for low-income individuals, particularly single moms. Single moms at work who are working within the Urban University, and they do more than the work. They literally are learning what it means, perhaps many of them for the first time, what it means to lead by example, not only for their children. Many of them are, again, they're single moms, they have children. The majority of them are. And they're learning that they actually have value. And you and I, many of you, the big viewing audience, beyond just Tracey and I, we know that it's not about someone else empowering us. It's about giving us an opportunity or a seizing opportunities in order to do something, literally do something, engage, act in order to experience the result of that. And the degree to which we experience a result that allows us to grow and learn, we become empowered. It's not through someone else saying, I deem you empowered. So this Urban University is all about enabling people to understand and experience themselves. So they walk away empowered. And we know what happens when one is empowered. They see the world as their vista. They're no longer saying, I can't, it's not possible. Someone's got my back. Not in a way that supports me, but literally constrains me. Well, Urban University is about the inverse. It's about facilitating in every young woman, whether they're in their 20s, whether they're in their 50s or older, the understanding that they have capacity and they are themselves agents. Therefore, they have agency. So I can go on and on about the nature of what Tracey's doing, yet I want her to do it. And you didn't come here for me, you came here for her, right? And so, Tracey, I want you to share it like it is. I want to begin by acknowledging, I think it's Elsa. And what did Elsa write? She writes, Tracey is a true leader, exclamation mark. And yes, and that's who we have here. True leaders, not because you wear a title, because you model that through your everyday activities in your roles and outside of your role. So, Tracey, tell us something about you that others would not know because it's not on social media. And it may be quite special and unique and private. And yet you're okay with sharing it with the public right now.
Okay. Well, first, I just want to say thank you, Elnora, for that introduction. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. You are this just beautiful, inspirational model of intelligence and grace for me. And it's an honor to be here for Women's History Month and as we close Black History Month as well. Let's say a little bit about me that people may not know. That's not on the website. I like to sing. If I could be, I'd also be a jazz singer on the weekends.
Wow, I did not know that. That is good for you to know. I'm tempted to ask you to sing, but no, we're not doing that right
We want people to join your show.
now. No, they will join at greater numbers, but go ahead.
Yeah.
That is wonderful. And so that is what that's special about you. Do you allow yourself an outlet for that as part of your fun activities, your life, the nature of who you are?
Yeah, I do. I'm big with I'm driving. I'm big with singing while driving somewhere in the privacy of my car or home. But yeah, it just helps me bring joy. Some people hum to themselves. I like to sing.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Well, I like to sing, but in the shower where I sound wonderful, but I would not entertain doing it here. Yeah, there's something about water that adds so much to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So we have this, I consider to be a simple, and in its own way, elegant topic, and yet an interesting topic, to say the least. Help us understand how you came to this space where love is the pathway to transformative leadership for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. First of all, it happened for me as I was completing the social entrepreneurship program for executives at Stanford. And I was in a room with 50 social entrepreneurial leaders from all over the world. And we were tasked to describe our missions in 6 words. And I failed.
Oh, wait, you said that to me before. I don't know if you failed. Finish the story.
Yeah, because I am, first of all, from New York. I'm from a family that talks a lot, and I'm just used to, describing things in a lot of words. And here I was being tasked to describe our mission. And at the time I was 20 years in and only 6. And that's not easy to do. So in the class, I think I came up with some random words, just in terms of completing the assignment, but it didn't really hit for me truly what I thought I needed to be able to, how I was describing it. And so I thought about it and I came up with 6 words that actually resonated with me. Love, 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 love. Those are my 6 words. And how I got to that was because I am actually the daughter of a formerly incarcerated single mother. And her journey became my journey. I was in many ways in the cell with her, along with my sister, going through that. And there was one point when I was a young girl where I heard that she was having financial struggles with having an attorney to get her out. And I must have been 11. I could tell you the very place where I was at on 135th Street in Harlem. And I said, I want to be an attorney. I want to get my mom out of prison. And that set me and positioned me on the pathway to social justice that very moment. And then specifically when starting Urban University, I had
chills from the top of my head, going all the way down my body as you described that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, yes. And then I lost my brother to a heroin addiction, and my maternal uncles, just as Black men, did not potentialize at all. And I fell to my knees and wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something more than just go to funerals. I wanted to do something to make a difference. I knew that I wouldn't be bringing my brother back, but I just knew that I had to do something. I had to act. And so thinking about love and love being the pathway for me to do what I do, the mission that we do, and my leadership style, it resonated with me when I think about those points that started it all for me. So it's my reality and it's my truth, and it's very counterintuitive. I get it. Like love and business, they don't belong in the same room. But I want.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? I asked an open question.
Yeah, I just feel like it's the way people define business and how they define love, right? Like business is about profit and strength and, moving over on people and getting something, an achievement. And love people define as soft, right? Like it's
Soft
just
in what regards?
soft as in just about feelings or emotion. But if you really look at the more powerful definition of love, which is, when you are involved in something of great interest, you redefine it, and then you can see that it definitely fits in a lot of businesses, corporations, and definitely for social justice and entrepreneurism.
Wow. Awesome. I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I want to
Thank you.
acknowledge Brianna, who says, my girl, and then Elizabeth, who writes, Tracey is a wonderful example of love and leadership. She is an inspiration to me and a godsend to the community. Love her, her store, her mission. Yeah.
Elizabeth,
Wow.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. And so the next question, what's an example of this manifested where you live it? So how do you know that it's made a difference?
Right. And we just celebrated 23 years. So I just feel really fortunate that I have like this whole journey as a reservoir of knowledge and wisdom. But I define it specifically through these lessons. I call them my love lessons, that I've learned over time leading an organization. Number one is self-love. Like in all of this, I have seen how I have grown as an individual. And I think that's a very important conversation, Elnora, because as a leader, people look at you like you're not human. You're just like a superhuman, you may not feel, you may not think deeply about some situations, you may not care about people, depending on how you act, right? How you show up as a leader. But every leader is human. Every leader has thoughts and feelings about things that are occurring. Not every leader shows it, but they are. And so in order to deal with the macro and micro situations that you deal with as a leader on any given day, self-love is really important. It is a reservoir that you have to develop on a regular basis in order to deal with the situations that can come across your table at any given day.
So give us an example of how you engage in self-love, because that term is just used and it's almost thrown around. And there's formulaic ways that people, put on the internet, writing books, etc., how to engage. What works for you? How do you know that you're loving yourself?
That's such a good question. Well, so my environment as a Black woman-led, for example, organization on a macro level is there aren't a lot of Black women entrepreneurs that run organizations in the Bay Area, number one. As a women-led organization, I think 3% of funding goes to women-led businesses and women-owned businesses, even though 40% of women-led organizations or businesses represent in 40% of women represent entrepreneurism. 3%, on a good day, 9% of funding goes to us. And then, so that's like a macro level, right? I also deal with the community. So there's a lot of trauma in the community that, our organization has to face. And then on a micro level, there are a lot of microaggressions and biases and attitudes. And I know through all of that, within all of that, that I am growing and acting out of self-love because of my responses to things. So, for example, you talked a little bit about how love is opening your heart, and it's attitudinal. It's my attitude, and it's how I appraise situations, right? Yes. So if I'm appraising from,
go ahead.
If I'm appraising situations from a low self-love level, I'm going to appraise things as a victim. I'm going to appraise things as everything is hard and difficult. And I'm going to see things as a challenge. I'm not going to see the opportunities. So knowing that I do some work in the morning that I call my hour of power. That's about me building a reservoir of my own sort of self-love and care that allows me to deal with these bigger structural, macro and micro issues, that my responses tend to be, let me see how I figure this out. Let me see who I need to talk to. How do I solve this problem? I know for a fact that I am growing within it, and I can see my own growth. And that's one way of manifesting self-love as a leader.
Powerful. Again, gave me chills. And I get chills, just for those of you who don't know me in the audience,
Yeah.
hundreds, the millions of people over time. Chills, when I get chills, it's like I'm inspired. I'm deeply affected at the energetic level. And it's telling me that something is 100% right. I feel differently when something is not right. I absolutely get chills when something is so beautifully aligned. There's synergy, there's coherence. And so let me just say, and again, I want to call out these folks who are indicating. Claudia writes, Tracey, my motivation, my inspiration for the past 15 years. Wow. And Brianna, Tracey, been a healer and a leader for decades. My summer sister changed the definition. And Mikey, Tracey is very inspiring, having won through the odds, manifesting sincerity, genuineness, and dedicated to the well-being of others, especially her sisters in crisis. Wow. Let's go back. You demonstrate how it's manifested in you. Love is manifested. You manifest love in you. It's how you react, or better yet, how you respond to the environment. You're not immediately reacting without thought. You're coming from a place of, there is intelligence here. There's something for me to learn. There's something for me to do, to influence, in order to shift the nature of things, in order to and remain steadfast to my vision. So I know you're one that leads by example. You have a vision. You are emotionally invested in that vision. It's part of your burning desire to see change, and it comes from a deep place that you've shared with us earlier, in part. And you are acting consistently, which many people have great visions. I mean, wow, they could change the world with their visions. They don't act. Too many don't act. And we want to remind you to act. All of a sudden, the kinds of comments that come in right now, that if we had enough time, many more would come in if everybody knew that Tracey was here. Because of her unwavering commitment, well over 23 years. That focus initially that led her ultimately to this place. She didn't get there right away. Like all of us who are building, it takes time to build the foundation. But when you build a solid foundation, doesn't matter what come your way. It's like the Tao is saying about, real strength. Real strength, you don't necessarily see it. You make assumptions that because someone's loving, that they're weak. I thought you were going to say that, Tracey. You didn't say that. You kind of inferred it. You make assumptions that because someone is outwardly expressive of kindness and openness and receiving, that they're weak. Wow. Let me tell you something. Those are some of the most powerful people I've met on the planet.
Yes.
I want them to have my back any day. My side, be in front of me, be on top of me, below me. I want them to be all around me, because when the rubber hits the road and there's a major crisis, they will lift mountains.
Yes.
They will move a vehicle. Got some real stories to tell when we have time to talk about the power of love and how it literally will pick up a truck. I've seen it. Save a child. How it literally will fight an animal that otherwise they could not beat, and yet beat the animal 3 times the size of the person. But because they're saving a life out of love, they do it. So the power of love is extraordinary, and it doesn't have to be activated when it's in crisis. In fact, it is most profound when there is no crisis.
Yes.
Sure that there's a leveling of opportunities for folks.
Yes.
So let's go further. When you think about, and I want to move outside of you, and I want to be careful when I say that, because when I say outside of you, I'm really not talking about not connected to you, because we're connected to everything and everything's connected to us. What I say outside of you in terms of the verbal conversation. So we've talked about what love means to you and how you demonstrate it towards you and the world around you. But I want to know how you demonstrate this love that led you to effective and continuous effective leadership that's transformative for people. So give me an example of a mom who started off where she was. And of course, let's keep it confidential to
Yes. Yes.
honor her privacy.
Yes.
And how she went from what most people would say is rock bottom, and there's no way she's coming out of that because of
Yeah.
Trump.
Yeah.
And we'll honor that she can't come out of that.
Yeah.
And yet, with your leadership and the resources your organization provides, that person is no longer in that space, which is real.
Yes.
Doesn't get it.
Yes. Yes.
Is it in a completely different paradigm?
Yes.
Talk to
Yeah.
us about that.
Oh yeah, I'm grateful that Urban University has a few of those stories. It's just so beautiful. Sometimes you won't see people for like 18, 19, 20 years, and they'll call you and say, I got a master's degree in psychology. That just happened to me last week. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for Urban University, wouldn't be there. There's one woman, her initials are CC, and she's known as a boss. I met her 15 years ago. And homeless mom, had been through a lot of the unfortunate situations that women go through when they're young. And she had this very, very intense desire to change. You could tell. And our organization at the time was working with the Bar Association to help low-income women transition into entry-level legal positions. And our role, Urban University's role, was to work one-on-one with each individual, each mother. We sat across the table from her, learning about what are your goals, what are your desires for yourself, where have you messed up? So one way that I feel like our organization and for myself been able to demonstrate love in the context of the programs is building trust with people. Building trust enough with them where they say, I messed up in this area. I can talk to you about what's vulnerable. I can say some things to you that I don't normally say to people because I really need to help myself. And just being present with people that don't normally even get attention. Being present with people that are not normally seen and definitely not normally heard. And giving them your presence is so easy and simple, but we don't do it a lot. Enabled many of the women to share their stories with me, and I did not judge their stories. I did not say, oh, your story's bad or shame them. That's your story. How do you want your story to continue from this day on where I am with you right now? So giving them that presence that allowed them to share their stories and then work with them over time. For Cece, I could see she completed her programs. She completed her academic component of her programs. When she hit a hurdle or a problem, she would come to me because she knew she could trust me. She knew I wouldn't judge her, right? She knew I wouldn't shame her, so we could problem solve. She continued. She finished the program. She worked in a law firm. Something happened to her personally. She had to figure out if she continued working at the law firm. She came to me. She had that trust, right? She knew I wouldn't shame her, right? She knew I would problem solve with her, right? So she was able to make a career move. It was necessary for her in order to balance her family life and her own desires as a woman. So she made another decision to leave the legal industry and go into teacher education. And then she made another decision to actually go to school. Now her family never went to college. She's the first graduate of her family, but she trusted herself enough to complete such a feat. Today, she moved from living in a transitional housing program when I met her with 2 babies to now being a homeowner today. because she believed in herself and she had someone that had her back, that provided her with the ability to share her story, share her life, share her shortcomings, share her dreams, to the point where she was able to jump over every single hurdle that came her way to be a homeowner, a college graduate. Her daughter just graduated from college a few years ago. That's an amazing story. And that is the impact that you can actually, anyone can do as a leader in terms of being able to support the work of others.
Okay. Shows again. And this is a thank you from, Hawa. She thanks us for our amazing leadership. Happy March to both of us. Thank you for honoring us as powerful leaders. It's moments for us as women to act for the change that we deserve for better futures. Thanks for being inspirational voices. And thank you, Hawa, for your role. Continue to be the change you want to experience. Continue to expect the best of everyone that you're there to influence. And that's what you're talking about, Tracey.
Yes.
It's not pigeonholing people. It's not making assumption that this is right or that's right. It's about, oh, I love it. I got two of my nieces on here. So powerful, Zerica. And then Christian writes, being present and being acknowledged by yourself and others is so powerful, yet too rare these days. Unfortunately, many people work harder to hide and shut down their emotions when strength involves acknowledgement and moving through them. Wow. Thank you, ladies, for helping others open their closed doors to self. Yes. Yes.
Right on. Beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's go deeper. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to share a few more quotes. So one is, I don't know who these are attributed to, but they're just quotes. Shouldn't say just quotes, they are quotes.
Yeah.
And whoever the spirits are, thank you for them. Love is where leadership begins. Love is where leadership begins. Life, lead, love, intertwine. Be the leader you would follow. Leadership today is based on relationships built with trust, hope, love, and encouragement. I think it's always been that. It's just a matter of our perspective. The boss loves power. The leader loves people. And then if your leadership is truly grounded in love, I call it unconditional love, you'll always land in a category of the good leader or great leader. Now, something that you said when we talked recently, Tracey, you were careful to say that you were very comfortable in this space of love leadership. I'll reduce it to that or elevate it to that, to be able to give people hard news, give them hard feedback, tough feedback, responsible, respectful feedback. Talk about that a bit, because again, there's too many of us who thinks that somehow we've got to leave the love at the door when we enter our office or our place of work or employment or leadership.
Yes. Good question. And first of all, I know that this is the right topic because I have goosebumps and butterflies in my stomach too. And it takes courage to talk about love and leadership as a leader. It really does. And so, and I think it's because people attach to love as the soft issue and not the power. Not a powerful issue. And it's a very powerful issue. And to parlay it into tough love is really important. But if we define it as something we feel greatly interested in, love leads us to telling the truth. And
say that again.
Love leads us to telling the truth. It leads us to telling the truth to ourselves. And it leads us to telling the truth to people. And I think in business, people are like, oh, you can't talk about love because you have to do tough things. Like you have to fire people and you have to maybe close down departments. And that's not love. That wouldn't be love. But listen, for example, for me, I care about the mission, and I care about the mission to the point that if I have someone on my team that's not coming to the table present or prepared for assignments or completing assignments, I love myself enough, I love the mission enough where I'm going to tell the truth and say, hey, your performance is not where it needs to be in order for this mission to get where it needs to be. So utilizing love as a pathway to transformative leadership also means that you keep your eye on the mission and the goals, and you are authentic when you are speaking to people, even about their performance.
Yes.
What if you see someone that's not performing well? You think it's love to keep them there? No, it's not. It's not for them. It's not for you, and it's not for the mission, right? So you draw upon that, and you draw upon the courage that you need to tell the truth. You tell the truth to people, you tell the truth to yourselves, and you also have to listen yourself as a leader to the truth. So defining love as just a soft issue is sub-optimizing its power.
Yes.
I say we can tap into the power of love by also talking about the truth and saying the truth to ourselves and to others. And therefore, it has its rightful place in business.
Absolutely. And precondition to effective leadership, there's no integrity, there's no trust. So I remember in different roles, listening to colleagues, peers who were in comparable roles, or maybe I reported to them, and they were more supervisors, or their people reported to individuals who reported to shared supervisors. And they would make statements like, oh, that's too much of a risk if we go there with that, if we address this stinging issue that really is a reflection of incompetence or a reflection of undermining the organization, or even slightly criminal, then we may lose our job, or we may not be able to, may not be promoted by the organization, or the good old boys may not value us. I want you to speak to that, because I couldn't understand it when it was happening, and it happened throughout my career, and I was always curious. I couldn't understand, because at the core of serving in a leadership role is understanding that you don't have that job as a permanent role, a permanent gig. You may be there for 2 years, you may be there for 20 years, but it's not a job that you are given unless you have your own business. And then if you have a board of directors, you can't guarantee that you're going to be in that role forever. So why play undermining with your organization and not address issues in a truthful way that demonstrates integrity within an organization? It seems to me the more you negate or ignore or don't address those issues, the organization begins to crumble, and the foundation is no longer solid. The air pockets that are at the molecular level become more transparent, and before you know it, the entire organization folds in on itself. I want you to speak to that, even though I obviously provided my perspective.
Yeah, there's two things that come to mind for me. Marianne Williams says there's two emotions, love or fear. Yes. And if you're not operating out of love, you're operating in fear. And you know what, Elnora? A lot of people operate out of fear. And the growth mindset, which is the opposite to me, is not an easy mindset. Your brain chemistry has to be there for you to see opportunity, for you to see success, for you to vision. A lot of people cannot do that. So a lot of people end up reducing themselves and moving out of fear. You can't bring new ideas to them. It's difficult to bring innovation to them. It's difficult for them to perceive things. They always think of it as risk. I mean, small things, they have to be comfortable. For me as a social entrepreneurship or entrepreneur, I do not need to be comfortable. I don't have that as a need. Innovation to me is much more important, especially as I keep my eye on the prize in terms of the mission, because Lord knows trying to get mamas out of cars to being their own homeowners is not like an easy task. It's a vision that I have. But if I feel afraid about it, I'm not going to do anything towards it. I'm not going to actualize it. And so that's one thing. And I think, and we can break it down across sectors, across businesses, but literally, if you're not operating out of the courage of love, you are operating out of fear. And a lot of people operate out of fear.
You said something I don't want us to lose. Growth mindset.
Yeah.
There are different mindsets. There's arguably, you multiply the number of people on the planet, you have that times whatever, the number of mindsets. But there's the growth mindset and there's the fixed mindset. The growth mindset is open to opportunities, and those are the individuals we see that we see in different spaces making a profound difference on the planet and elsewhere, going out into space. I mean, who could think about that, right? The growth mindset could think about that. The fixed mindset says the world is flat. The fixed mindset says, oh, blacks belong over here, whites belong over there. The fixed mindset says, I will never have anything, more than what my families have ever had. The fixed mindset says it really is not enough. The growth mindset says it's enough for me to get to where I'm going to be because I've got a vision, and this is enough for me to start. So talk about how you got to the place where you understood the value of this whole notion of mindset to begin with. Because leaders, by definition, have a particular, effective leaders we're talking about, not position power, but effective leaders, transformative leaders have a mindset, and you can't touch it. It is brilliant. It is unique. It's idiosyncratic to that individual, and yet it's profound, and it facilitates with that emotional, deep emotional burning desire for that vision. It facilitates that greatness.
Yes. Yeah. Growth mindset is deep. It's one of my favorite subjects, actually. And I've had the fortune, because of the traumas and the situations, the real situations that were the motivation for me. I was 9 years old reading Norman Vincent Peale. I don't know how that happened, but I was just like, hey, look, if I'm here like everybody else and I have a purpose, I'm going to use my mind to reach that purpose. When I was younger, it was in smaller ways. Like, even though I was a single mom, I'm going to go to college. I feel like life to me is not just here. I have a purpose, and I want to reach that purpose. And I work on my mind a lot. Like, for example, I do not watch television. Okay. I do not want to be in a passive space where I'm taking in all of this negative energy and just sitting there. So I read, or I write, or I listen, or I think. I protect my mind from negative images and negative statements all of the time. And I really, really work on my mind being growth oriented, meaning challenging myself, meaning give some thought to things that I hear, meaning having conversations about it and being in a tribe of people that are always talking. Because if you really accept and embrace the fact that you are agents of change, and I believe we all are, then you have to do the work personally of what that will mean for you. And again, that's where that self-love comes from. And if you think you have a purpose and you know you have that purpose, one of your duties and responsibility has to be how your mind is working. And that's everything from what you're putting in your body, your diet, how you spend your time, who you spend your time around. It's really important to be in growth mindset. If you want to be a visionary. If you want to just be a normal person that's sort of just hanging around, okay, do you. But if you want to be a visionary, you have to do the work to parlay yourself always into a mindset, into attitude, and into beliefs that can support the vision that you have. So if anybody is out there, say that again.
Take the action.
Yes.
Take the actions.
Yes. I mean, I started from the bottom, Elnora, when I thought about Urban University. I had nothing. I was a single mom making $12.67 as an employment specialist in a shelter for homeless men and women. I hadn't even gotten my, at the time, associate's degree at the time. But I had this big vision because my mother, my brother, the trauma that I saw, that was burning larger in me than anything that I didn't have. So I was not thinking I lack anything. I felt like the energy behind me and doing this mission and the vision was going to carry me. For example, I was talking to a woman about the vision of Urban University, and she said to me, "You can't start Urban University. So-and-so is doing something like that down the street." And I was like, "What? I can't start it. What do you mean?
I hope
Oh, no, you can't do that."
I'm hoping that every time any one of us, anyone viewing, anyone that we know has a vision and shares it and hears no, that all they do is laugh and create that kind of energy in the brain and every cell of the body is like, okay, another joke. Let's go on to the next thing and let's stay fixed on our vision.
Yes. I mean, you can feel it inside of you physically when you have it. It's really that burn in your belly. And so when she said that, and she said that to me, and I was like, I can start anything I want to. This is America. What are you talking about? But some people would listen to those voices. Some people would succumb to those voices because they're afraid. And that's what I'm saying. You have to be friends with courage when you have a vision. And and there's one more point that I actually want to bring up because it's so relevant to my position where I'm at right now in the organization. And you were talking about how when you're in a company or when you have your own company and you it's your company, love also means you have to let go. And it's a deep lesson as a founder because as a founder, it's literally like your baby. You started it, you hustled, you had to figure it all out. You had to, start from scratch. You had to learn. You had to sacrifice. You had to give. It's like your child. But for me, this mission is bigger than me now. It's bigger than even what I thought it was initially. So love for me now means I have to let it go. I got to get leaders in here. I got to get board members in here. I got to get the community rallied around because this mission is going beyond Tracey, and for me, that means a succession plan for real in the future. But it also means that your identity isn't ramped up into this mission to the point where it just evolves around you. I mean, my goal is for single moms to be the leaders so that Urban University gets smaller over time, where they can start coming up with ways to improve their community because they're there. To me, that's what really success is. So another love lesson for me is not only the growth mindset and being careful about what you put in your mind and how you grow your mind, but it's also about letting go so that others can join you in leading towards that vision.
Yeah. I think we have a number of questions and we've gone on longer than I thought we'd initially before the questions. But before we do the questions, Jet, and Jet, for those of you who don't know, he's my remarkable lead behind the scenes, and Jet is always here weekly. He's in the Philippines, and so it's close to 5 o'clock his time in the morning, and so we just love you, Jet, and appreciate your leadership. And so Vanessa writes, Johnson writes, "Thank you, Tracey, for taking a stand for single women beyond talking about it to actually being a change agent for single women and helping them to give themselves permission to thrive in life." I love that.
Yeah, me too.
I love your title, Vanessa.
Venice Johnson, the boldness coach.
Boldness coach. I love it. I love it. So let's take the first question, Jet. Love leadership. Interesting. Is talking about or expressing love now acceptable in business? I'll let you answer that first.
Good question. And check it out. We already are talking about love in business. And this is why I say that, because when we talk about diversity, when we talk about equity, when we talking about inclusion, We're talking about love.
Yes.
We're talking about,
Breathe, breathe,
yes,
breathe.
yeah, yeah. You know, we're talking about how do we acknowledge that all of us in this room come from different places, but we're all equally intelligent, equally valuable, and our voices must be heard. That's love.
Mm-hmm.
We may not call it love, but when the business world is evolving to the point where they're embracing others and they're creating platforms to others be heard, and for their input and their experience and their knowledge to be a part of whatever our business mission and values and goals, that's love. And
Yeah.
so I think, again, it's how we define it. But as we evolve, and we evolve business where we kick to the curb profit over people, when
Mm.
we challenge ourselves to get a decent minimum wage, and how that's our responsibility as a business to look at the communities outside of us that utilize our services that we are responsible for in many ways, that's love. When we come up with ways in marketing to create commercials or ads that reflect the beauty of what America is supposed to be, that's love.
Mm.
And so we may not call it that, but as we evolve to considering others and people in our business models, that's essentially the pathway that we're on, in my opinion.
And I'll just add, in all of our roles, at whatever roles we are in, whatever organization, our own, other people's organizations, corporations, nonprofits, community-based organizations, municipalities, it's important that there be clear, explicit value statement, culture value statement that makes it transparent to anyone on the outside who's a customer, who's a client, who is somewhere and maybe in partnership with that organization to understand here's what you value. You don't have to use the word love, but there's enough value related words that are sufficiently transparent that
Mhm.
better defines how you want people to be treated, how you are treating people, how you engage people.
Mhm.
So I love the way you described that, Tracey. And so whether your organization, the person who authored that question, is comfortable with the word love or not, you can
Mhm.
still walk in love. You
Yes.
thrive in love. In fact, I think that's the only way you really do thrive is when you're
Mhm.
thriving from the space of unconditional love.
Yes.
And it's okay that people may think that you're weak because you're being respectful, because you are functioning with integrity, because we can go on and on and on. It's
Mhm.
not okay for you to undermine your own values in order to play small, as you quoted Marianne Williamson
Yeah.
earlier. I'll do the same thing, playing
Yeah.
small so other people will feel better. In fact, all
Yes.
you do is you model how best to play small.
Yes.
Thrive in love, when you walk and lead in love, all of a sudden people are given permission to do the same. Oh,
Mm.
he's doing it, and they're the CEO. They're the chief operating officer. They're the provost. They're the chancellor. They're filling the gap. All of a sudden,
Yes.
the environment shifts, and it can shift in an instant. It doesn't require years to do that.
Mhm.
Next question, Jen.
Absolutely.
How do I lead with love? How do I lead with love? Well, hopefully, what we've shared thus far
Mhm. Mhm.
reflects that. Um,
Mhm.
I want to add to what Tracey has already conveyed. And I want
Mhm.
to say, first, define love for yourself. You get to define love for yourself. No one gets to do it for you. You can choose to take their definition. I would strongly recommend you define love for yourself in
Mhm.
a way that is independent of your gifts in terms of your abilities, your capacity, your actions. Define love where it really is unconditional
Mhm.
and find a way to stay in that space. And
Mhm.
then, if you can, write down what that description for yourself. Read
Mhm.
it daily so you're reminded, so that over time, because we're habits, over time you don't need to read it. It'll just be in your spirit.
Mhm.
It'll be it'll come out of your heartfelt engagement, your heart mind connection. that leads to certain activities. And all of a sudden, people will begin to treat you the way you envision yourself, the way you love yourself. Not necessarily perfectly. Let me just tell you, Tracey and I deal with a lot. And some of it has nothing to do with anything except for the color of our skin.
Yeah, man.
Some of it is not good. In fact, a lot of it's out of hate when it's not good. But that's their stuff.
Yeah.
Remember that it's not your stuff. If you're female and people treat you differently because you're female or you're short or you're tall or you're wide or you're thin, whatever the stuff is. If it's not your stuff, don't take it on. Define love for you, go for it. You'll be perhaps amazed at how much comes back to you. It's like throwing a boomerang. It comes back at a greater force. Do all that remarkable stuff about you that's unconditional and be open to the possibilities. Next question, Jet. Wow, this topic takes my breath away. Felt something was missing from my own work. Redemption for me? I'll let you take that, Tracey.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we should have our breath taken away now and then in life. I mean, what's life about, you know? And I feel like we're talking about the business case for love, but and I was just thinking as you were talking, you know, maybe people are having difficulty with it because they haven't really thought about it, you know? And during the pandemic, I have to say that I have much more increased my reflection time, right? Because we're working remotely from home. But I think it's important to have thinking time and to really think about like what matters to me. What really matters to me in the work that I do? What matters to me in dealing with people? Like I have a couple of team members, Elsa, Nina, they actually are, you know, on frontline, and I can see through their devotion to the mission that they're just fabulous people. And I want to learn how to listen. Like that was my thing. I want to learn how to listen. That's showing love to me. How do I listen to them? Because I used to half listen to people, keeping it real. You know, I was always the one thinking, okay, I got to have the answer as soon as they're done talking to me, you know? So I was like, Tracey, maybe you need to listen to what they're saying. And I have to like literally tell myself, don't say anything. Just listen. That's love, right? Because now what I'm doing is I'm teaching myself in an area that I need to develop in order for me to hear people. So I'm not afraid to hear what they're saying. And so, but I wouldn't get there if I didn't take the time to think about what matters to me, what I care about. And there's nothing like being a part of a mission where your breath is taken away on a you know, at least a weekly basis, you know. I mean, that's what the beauty of life is. Have your breath taken away with something that you that matters to you, you know.
And I want to add to your taking time to think, to reflect. I want to encourage people to feel it, though. Feel as you go there, because I always like to remind people that there's more signals from the heart to the brain than there is the reverse. There's more signals from the heart to other parts of the body than there is. And I'm not saying that the mindset is talking about the brain. The mind is in every cell of the body, and it vibrates outside the body. But I'm talking about most people tend to think in terms of the brain and intellectually. I want people to remember to feel when they're in that silent space, when they're in that reflective mode, because that's where the power comes. That's where the real transformation happens. And to answer your question, yes, redemption for you, redemption for all of us. We don't know what we don't know until we know it, and then we get to act accordingly. And we don't know what we don't know, and not until we just hear it, that we choose to receive it. And the operative word is choice. We get to choose as humans. Doesn't matter if we're locked away in a cell, and there's examples of that, where one man was on death row, was not expected to live, and he had reconciled that he had done the crime, he's doing the time, and he's going to die. He just accepted that until he realized he had a son and that wasn't fair to his son. Not that his son wanted to hear from him, but he transformed his mindset to where what was legally correct and time bound actually went poof. And he was out of prison and he became what he imagined in the cell alone and led to writing. What is it? Oh my goodness, so many books I've read. Can't think of the name of it right now. But in that book, he refers to fear as focus, emotional commitment, action, and responsibility. Focus, emotional commitment, action, and responsibility. I don't care who you're reading, who she or he may be when they speak truth, or whether it's in a religious text or a philosophical text. When there's truth, there's truth. And those key areas are among the fundamentals that will get you anywhere you want to be. But you have to have faith, which is part of the focus. And
You know,
that's love.
you that could be a whole nother show, like how fearful we may act. But I'm telling you, for me, when I decided on opening up to the universe on this particular mission, I was like, I am not going to fear anyone or anybody or anything, not even myself, because even your own mind, you can bring yourself down into a state of paralysis around starting something. Oh, I need to have this in the bank, or oh, I need to have that in the bank, or oh, I need to have this. And it's like, hey, just show up. Just show up to what your vision and your goals are and challenge yourself. Like I had a peer say to me, schedule things, schedule workshops, and then publish it. And then you can't back out of it. Do that enough. Schedule the workshop, put it all on social media. You can't back out of it once you do it. Because sometimes you have to pull yourself up out of the paralysis of fear in order to get to the next levels that the universe is. And you will land. You will land every single time. I am a testament to it. You will land.
Awesome. Jet, I know we're running over a bit, but Jet, let's take a few more. In an interview for an executive position, do I talk about being a leader who loves the people? I love that question.
Yeah.
I work with and who work and people I work with and who work for me. Okay. All right. We're laughing for a reason because we love this question.
Yeah.
Do we talk about loving people? Yeah. Well, let me just say something. I remember having one interview, and it was years ago. It was for a dean role that I assumed responsibility for. It was the most weird question. I'd never heard it before. And yet I later learned that it was not unusual for this organization. And the question was, what makes you angry? And I remember sitting there and the feeling inside was like, I wish the question was, what makes me feel love?
Yeah.
And yet my response to that question was absolutely pure love. And the president and the vice president on the other end of the table were like looking at each other like, wow. And I have no idea what I said. And I got the gig. But the power was not so much in me using the word love. It was because I framed my life in terms of love, unconditional love. It really doesn't matter because the energy that comes out of me is love. Or at least I like to believe that. And when it's not, I've got to check myself. And hopefully I have enough loved ones around me to give me feedback, honestly, to let me know I've steered from my path, whatever that happens to be. And power is not in using the word. I mean, it's helpful. The power is in being clear what it means to you, defining it for yourself, and how you lead in that space. And so you talk about the behaviors because that's what's most important. Do you have a vision? Do you understand the nature of the organization's vision? Does that vision align with yours? Are there values? So those values, are they in sync with your values? Do you see the nature of that organization and its mission, one that you are wedded to and want to be part of, to lead? And how do you work with people? How have you worked with people in a way that makes it clear that each one is valued for their work And that has actually catapulted those individuals to leadership roles within the organization or within other organizations because of the remarkable modeling and support that you've provided. So that's how you talk about love. You don't have to
Right.
say, I'm a loving person. And
Yeah.
No. It's really about, how it's manifested in your actual behaviors. And if
Yes.
you don't think it's manifested, then as the previous questioner conveyed, you can be redeemed. You decide now.
Yeah. 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 And I think you're talking about authenticity too.
Yes.
You're talking about being authentic to yourself and defining things for yourself. And that's so important. But I was thinking about this and I sort of looked at some quotes and I was reading this quote by Elon Musk, who's in the tech field. Everybody knows Elon Musk, Tesla, that type of thing. And he had this quote, I'm paraphrasing about, when I'm hiring people, I look at education and now I'm learning, the personality. Now where I'm at is I want to know if they have a good heart.
Mm.
If you're good-hearted. I mean, that dude's talking about love right there when he says,
Yes.
that's the energy behind that. Are you going to be a
Yes.
person that's going to be devoted? Are you going to be a person that's going to be a problem solver? Are you going to be a person that's going to see the opportunity in things? Are you going to be a person that sees the light at any given tunnel? Are you going to just be a victim? Are you just going to be a naysayer all of the time? Because nobody has time for all of that when you're trying to do a vision. He's like getting people on Mars. I'm getting mamas out of cars into homes.
I love that.
You need your tribe. And so look, there are a lot of business people that talk about love. They may not be using that word, but they are essentially talking about what matters to them. They're talking about their passions and they're talking about what's very, very, they're deeply interested in. And so you're right. It tends to be the energy that's behind it, and define it for yourself in an authentic way.
Absolutely. Next question. When seeking new leaders for my organization, we ask about the prospect's values from each candidate and their references. This is a timeless topic. Thank you.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Next question. Thank you. My colleagues and I have discussed this topic in private, trying to determine how best to present to our entire team. Any suggestions? Go for it, Tracey.
Yeah, I think you raised that earlier when you talked about having the values discussion, right? Like, first of all, what is important? Have that conversation with your team. Like, what is important for us around whatever our goals are? What's critical in order for us? What's important for us? How? And I really want to say this: the work and the mission is the what, but getting there and your methods and your interactions and your team interactions is the how. I don't think we think about the how as much as we think about the what. But when you think about the how, like how you want to work with people and how you want to get to your goals, that's when you start having your value conversations. And that's when you can start really sort of sitting down and learning more about the people around you. So maybe it's in your retreats, maybe it's in your weekly team building Zooms, but bake in the conversations on a regular basis about what's important to you, what's important to your organization, what's important to your company, and what's therefore important around the individuals. Once you identify that, then bake that into your either your evaluation process or your team building process, so you can always do a check-in to see how you all are actually working on it.
Woo. Okay. I feel like there's so much more to share, but I want to thank you, Tracey, for sharing in such a clear, authentic, intimate way with all of us. I am honored to always be in a space where I can see your extraordinary smile. You probably get that throughout your life. Absolutely gorgeous. And know that you're among the sisters on the planet that's about elevating the species of humans. And one mom at a time, a collective of moms at a time, through an organization that is timeless. And timeless not because we want moms in the future to have this need, but timeless and that there are models that you're providing that are invaluable for all of us to leverage. So, sincerest, deepest appreciation.
Ashe.
Much
Thank
love.
you.
I do.
Much love to you. Thank you.
Ah.